hello. Again here as a moderator. And I would like to welcome my invited panelists. And please, this is Bertalan Temesi from Hungary. Ah, okay, very nice. And you're a composer and producer, of course. Okay. And here is Steve Levine from UK?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Composer and
music producer.
Music producer, very well. And dear Vasilis Ginos, okay?
Sorry.
Who is Dr. Vasilis Ginos? We must say that, huh?
I've studied law and music.
Yes. As Dinos Georgoudjos has studied philosophy, music, and engineering. This is the reason we organize this conference today, because we have people that come from both human sciences and technologies and science. This is fantastic. So, let's start about this future danger, or do you think this is a danger? AI music, generated music, or maybe it has many profits for you? Let's start with Bertalan.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here. First of all, we are musicians. We are humans. We have emotions. We are sensitive. AI is with us now. He is listening. But I think he would not do the same what I do now. Please give a big round of applause to the lady who entertained us yesterday and today with his beautiful harp outside. Yes, I'm a musician. First of all, a bass player, music teacher, producer. First of all, coming from the light music scene, but I'm learning classical things too. I'm on the master class now of classical teaching. Yes, I came from Hungary, from Budapest, and yes, I have a record label, so I am a record label owner too. Mm-hmm. I'm producer, marketing teacher in a music school, and sound engineer. Thank you for the technical part and for the sound engineers to working here together, and they know what I have to say. Everything is about the input, and that's after that the output. It's about AI too. It's about sound engineering too. If I put inside a good thing, the microphone, it can be a good thing, what's coming out. If I don't speak in this mic, you can't listen me. Or if somebody is making something with this record later, could be a lower quality microphone output. I think you know what I mean about input and output quality. Okay. Yeah, the positive thing for me about the AI things, that AI as a creative assistant is really good for me. I think it was a revolution something, or it can help us to find a way, faster workflow, inspiration. As I am working at home alone, and I get up when I want, and I go into my studio, and I need a female singer. Unfortunately, my beautiful wife is a lawyer and can't sing as a female at home if I make a demo. That's why I use my voice, but if I send it to someone with a female voice, AI is helping me in it. Yeah. You know, AI is from the 50s, we have spoken about it. In the 90s, I had only PC, not Macintosh. With a PC, I had MIDI, keyboard, and synth bass too, since 85, I think. As a bass player, I don't prefer synth basses, but it's okay, it was the MIDI. we used it for horns, symphonic, everything, with Cubase, later with Fruity Loops. Now I use Mac. The Mac can help me to use Logic, Pro Tools, Ableton, everything. These are full DAW things. If I use AI mastering, I use Isotope, Ozone with mastering help. For correction, if I don't sing really good, Melodyne can help us as the AI. For realistic film score, Spitfire audio is really good. Analog vintage characters, late digital. I have a microphone. If you are in the studio and want to have different characters for singing, you have to buy minimum 10 different characteristic microphones. If you use Telefunken, if you use AKG, Sony, these are really, really expensive microphones, maybe 10,000 euros. So if you want to buy 10 microphones with good quality for different styles, you have to pay for that 100,000 euro. If you buy a Slate digital microphone, it's about 1,000 euro. You can use 12 different characters as a software, and not before the recording. You can use it as a sound engineer. If you are making the mix and you don't like the sounding of the singer, you can change in the mix with different characters with this software microphone like AI produced. Sonarworks can help us to make good or better acoustic in our studio, or can help us to have male or female sounding lead vocals maybe. Okay, as a musician, I'm on the stage. On the stage, I use my phones or my iPad too for tuning maybe. I love the drummers. They are my good friends. Drums is the most important in the mix for me. But, you know, drummers hate tuning the drums. We have on the phones this drum tuner AI things, and it helps us in good things. Live BPM. It counts the BPM for us if we have a live thing. Metronomes. Spectrum-I, the sound engineers using that if we have something, bad frequencies in this area, we can find it exactly. So we have brilliant things with AI. The new one is that I'm learning now as a masterclass, as a teacher. I have pretty much PPTs, and I found the notebook LM. Maybe you know this, maybe you're not. I don't have enough time to read these PPTs. And if I put inside, in 2 minutes, I have a podcast. 25 minutes, and I'm driving and listening my PPT, what my teacher sent me. So that's life now. These were the positive things, the negative things for me. The most important thing, however, is that AI shouldn't replace human creativity. AI-generated music poses serious economic and cultural threats to the music industry. As a child, my grandfather looked out in the window, through the window, and told me how much degrees are there. Will it be rainy days or not? Today, our friends and our students are speaking, first of all, with ChatGPT. What will be the better? What should I use, a cap or something? It will be a rainy day. So the first who our students are speaking is the ChatGPT or Gemini. That's nowadays the things. You know Laszlo Gyimesi, he was in the film 30 years. He is my idol, my leader, my second father maybe. In 2019, I was first in Copenhagen for a film conference, and that was my first. And Laszlo told me, that one thing, you don't have to speak one thing. If you start a sentence, can't use this sentence in our country. That was the input from Laszlo, and Laszlo is a good teacher. I didn't use it for 6 years, this sentence in film conferences. That's about input, and that's about sensitivity and emotional things. Well, it's important to me, and AI is not a sensitive and emotional. Yeah, we have to teach and educate everybody for that. It's our really big problem that we don't educate good. In streaming services, human works are increasingly being replaced by entirely machine-generated AI content. This process results in a loss of royalties, distorted competition, and artistic devaluation. Human creators receive less attention, the amount of royalties decreases, and authenticity of musical culture is endangered. Yeah, dramatic economic impacts in Europe. Some numbers. You know, first in the world, Hungary has agreement with Deezer and Spotify. We have spoken a lot with Deezer, and Deezer told us in January that they have 10% of AI-generated music. In September, they told us that they have 30% AI-generated music. It's 30,000 songs per day. 30,000 AI-generated songs per day. Just take a look at. The Spanish loss will be till 2028, maybe 100,000 million euro. The Danish music industry loss will be till 2030, 1 billion euro. We have to separate AI-assisted things that can be positive, and we have to separate AI-generated things. AI-assisted is a human-centered thing, offers suggestions, but doesn't decide. AI-generated is full automation. You know, I have spoken about the quality of the microphone. It's the same, I think. 4 critical legal challenges I have to speak. The first, the rise of AI in the music industry raises serious legal and ethical questions that urgently need to be addressed. The first, labeling obligation. It is unclear who is responsible for AI-generated content and how it should be labeled. The second, training data transparency. Creators are unaware if their works are being used to train AI models. The third, the illusion of cost advantage. Because if I use something AI for a female vocal, I can use it for free something, but not for big things. I have to pay for a quality thing, and it will be the same when I get a beautiful female girl there in the studio, and maybe she sings better and makes it 10 minutes. It will be the same price. Let's think about it. The illusion of the cost. That was the first. Third, and the fourth, the lack of international protection. There is no unified international regulation now. Yeah, future regulation must strike a balance between innovation and the protection of artists. AI should be the partner to human creativity and not substitute. That's important for me. The problem is that there are lawsuits that are ongoing now. We need evidence to that we can provide in court. We don't have evidence. That's the problem. We have court things, and the court says that you are not bad as a composer, artist, author, but you don't have any evidence. And we have to find evidence, what's in the black box. That's the most important for me, I think, about AI. The Hungarian idea is that data processing costs a lot of money. Millions of pieces of data enter our system every day. We don't have enough manpower. Even if we distinguish AI generated songs, we will unfortunately not be any further ahead. We have to pay a lot for data processing. In the best case scenario, we only spend what we earn from it. Service providers should be charged. So if you are sitting in the hairdresser or drinking a beer in a club, you can listen music, and we think that the hairdresser and the club should be paid for that if they use music. It doesn't matter if it's AI or not AI generated for us. So, yeah. The last sentence from me is about a quote. You know, less is more. But maybe if I come from light music, you know Yngwie J. Malmsteen. I think you know. Malmsteen was a really, really amazing guitar player. He made thousands of notes in 1 second. And he told that the less is more quote is a bullshit. More is more. Let me be today Yngwie J. Malmsteen in this stage and use another quote. The quote is the exception proves the rule. Let me be Malmsteen now and say, income reinforces the rule.
Thank you very much, Bertalan. Thank you very much for your speech. But I would like just to ask you, you come mostly from rock and jazz.
I made 128 albums, more than 1,014 commercial songs in the internet. So it was like classical music with symphonic, jazz, pop, rock, everything, funk, trap too. Yes. So I made all of them, I think.
Yes, trap we don't like very much, but anyway.
Me neither.
Let's go ahead. So, dear Stevie Levine, can you tell us the risks and the benefits of AI-generated music? Thank you.
You covered a lot of ground. I think there's two parts to this. There's the creative tools that enhance musicians and the workflow, and then there's the negative part, which is very much stealing income. And I think I heard a very good quote very recently when an American songwriter said, I'd like AI to help me concentrate on music while AI does my dishes. I don't want AI to end up doing my music, so all I can do is my dishes. And I think I'm old enough to have, I started in 1975, and that generation when I first started was the generation from the 50s and the 60s who were moaning about the introduction of synthesizers. And with respect to the Musicians Union here, I remember the day when the string machine came to the studio and they were saying, it's going to put string players out of business. And then a few years later, the Lindrum came out and every drummer went, oh my God, we're never going to get any more work. But what happens is each generation learns to work with the tools that they have. And I think when sampling technology first came out, which I was there at the very beginning, and the first generation of hip-hop producers started stealing music from other people's records, and it was a Wild West. It all became licensed very quickly, and now if you want to use someone else's recording on your own record, there are absolutely lawyers and record labels that will give you permission if the artist grants you permission or not. The problem that we have with AI is we were too late at coming to the I remember sitting in a studio, and I went to lunch, it was in the West End, and I remember there were two guys on a table that were AI developers, and they were gloating how they were harvesting all this data because nobody had realized, just as Spotify had all this data up there, they were just effectively harvesting everything from Spotify. So the problem is, the genie is out the bottle. So what are we going to do to bring it all back? There are some tools being developed at the moment, which the record companies have signed up to, which will track fingerprint if AI has been used without any consent or permission. So that hopefully is an area. I agree with you, fully AI machine-driven, where there's been no human input whatsoever, that's not really even anything. That's just a thing. And I think going back to your main speech, you'll never get away from the greatest thing of going to a live performance. I think that is going to be here forever. I mean, I think that is why live is the arena that's still very successful, because most young artists and growing artists still can pull an audience in. Even if it's only 50 people, they will still be able to generate that emotion. I think that's never going to go. I think we are at the crossroads now, and it's, back to England, there was a period of time when the Nottingham lace industry ruled the world, and then no one wanted Nottingham lace anymore. So at the moment, we have, as record producers, musicians, and songwriters, we have to be careful how we use things. And as I said, I use lots of tools like you do every day that really enhance it. It's the same as using the cleaning analogy. When the vacuum cleaner came out, it meant that people didn't have to vacuum their houses. The machine did it. So there are very, very positive aspects to certain parts of the process, but the negativity is where everyone is not getting paid for work that's essentially being stolen, in the same way that when hip-hop first started, people were stealing other people's work. So we have to address that. Certainly, as far as the English performing rights, they're not going to allow completely 100% electronically created music to ever be registered, so it can't generate any money, and hopefully that'll be an incentive for it to slowly disappear. But there are valid areas. You mentioned in your keynote about the programs like Bloom, for example, which has actually been around a really long time. Brian Eno was involved in that. And that is used by a lot of the wellness centres. That's probably very good, because you have to think of it now from the point of view of the operatives there. They don't want to listen to a playlist over and over again, round and round and round. So if they have a piece of music that never returns to zero, you could argue not only is the client getting wellness, but actually the employees are getting wellness. So there are one or two exceptions where I think it is valid. But when it's essentially stealing work from everyone else, then that is where it is unacceptable. And I presume at some point the record companies will realise, and because after all they are the greedy ones in this scenario, and they will realise if they're not getting any income, they will do something about it. But at our end, we just have to fight. We have to do. This is phenomenal to have all these people in this room that we all share pretty much the same view. We don't want our income taken away from us by great multinationals who have no transparency, and who knows where all the money's going. This is the problem. In the UK, a couple of days ago, there was a it was a worldwide thing, but it was particularly bad in the UK because I banked with Lloyds, and it all went down because of Amazon's web servicing. So a couple of days ago, my studio came to a grinding halt. And the BBC News said, this has got to stop. We cannot have 3 people controlling the infrastructure of the United Kingdom. So, these conferences will at least make governments aware of the problems. And hopefully, as creators, we can at our end do it. But I think it is, we need to be fearful, but I don't think it's as fearful as, I think if we just take a deep breath and look at previous generations who have dealt with technology changes, as I have done in my career. I've started with 8-track, went to 16-track, 24-track, digital sampling, and now we have hard drives and everything else. So I've been at the forefront of all that technology, and it's really interesting to look at each generation. And for example, now when I have my students come in, they'll bring a laptop in with all their music on the laptop, but they're still creating, but they're using the tools that are available. You mentioned about the mics. I've got some of those mics, and they go, oh my God, you've got a Neumann U47. It's like a holy grail to let them hear it. There is a difference, by the way, not to disrespect Slate, but if you A-B between the two, there is the kind of, that and the version. But that's perfectly fine, the tools for the job. So I'm positive if we can keep going with it. And in my demonstration later, hopefully I'll show you some bits and pieces that... Oh, sorry. So, of course, I've forgotten the translation. I apologise profusely. Yes. Well, I'm coming to the end now. It's your
yes.
Turn now.
Vasilis.
Okay. I just might pick it up from where Steve left it. Yeah. He said political. I think We all agree that there are great benefits from this new technology. There's no question about it. We use it every day in the studio. The problem is who controls it. I mean, what we really need is to control the application of artificial intelligence ourselves, or at least together with other interested parties, and I mean the tech companies. If I go further, I would like to dissect the music production in 3 stages, saying that we have the creative part, we have the technical part, and we have the commercial part. In all these 3 stages, I think AI has excellent applications. We talked about the creative. Of course, the technical, like mixing and mastering, is there. And I'd go as far as saying that even in the commercial side, when the finished program, the finished product hits the market, then you have all these tools that can tell you when to release, in what audience you're going to have to, how to post in the Instagram, how to upload, and of course there is all these great DSPs that use streaming for your music. This is all great. It's a fantastic tool. It's not the use that is the problem, it's the abuse. Because at this point, except when we see creators and musicians, authors like us work with these tools, as if they were exactly like that, tools. They are more than tools, but less than partners, because there is no friction with real life there. So this is a disadvantage, but of course all the other advantages are there, you can use them. So when you see that most people don't do that. I mean, you said 30% of all tracks uploaded to Spotify is AI generated.
These are, yeah.
But that what you said just then, by the way, is a fantastic point. When you are collaborating with somebody, another human being, some of the greatest songs ever are written through collaboration
Exactly.
and partnerships. As a producer working with a great artist, so you're absolutely right. An inhuman partner is not a partner.
Exactly. Still, it's more than the usual tools. And I mean, just like Steve said, we've been using tools like that from the era of MIDI. When MIDI came out, everybody went berserk, like it's a doomsday, we were finished. But musicians and the music business found a way to adapt and adopt. So we have, of course, that was not without repercussions, not without consequences. Big studios are vanishing. Lots of musicians lost work. And at this point, what AI did is to music, will do, hasn't already done it, is what it did to stock photography. It vanished overnight. So did music libraries. You know, when you upload your music and producers can pick it up and use it in their video and stuff like that, there was a great market there. But now it's gone because you can go to Suno, the director of the video can go to Suno, pay $9 per month.
But using the picture image is a great example, actually. Stock photography, but the tools in AI that enhance your photos, there are people that have won prizes with taking photos on their iPhone that have been enhanced just in color-wise, but they've been in the position of taking that great photo, because some of the greatest photos ever, it's not the equipment, it's being in the right place at the right time. So that has made photography more democratic in many, many ways, because the tools have helped a phone really deliver proper professional results.
I see your point, I agree. Democratization, of course, is the name of the game, and we all want that, but at what price do we get that? I mean, as a music community at this point, we are facing, I might say, a grave danger of being out of work as far as the recording is concerned. Because you have, of course, we have the live. Until AI goes there too. And I'm not sure that they're not working on this. Mr. Gagliardi told me of a software that it's now used in many musicals, in many musical stages in the States, that it's doing a fantastic work of replacing live musicians. So, as long as we have the live, we have an income. But our income that was already shortened by Spotify, you know, the 0.0003 to 0.0005, at this point, when we add in the Spotify, you add the podcasts on top, except the songs, we have the podcasts, and then you add all the AI-generated content. Your share gets smaller and smaller due to the pro rata distribution. So this might create further problems down the ecosystem, because you see, MIDI has taken out studio facilities, sound engineers, because now you're a mixer, you're a sound engineer, you're a mastering engineer, and then you're, of course, a labor as a DIY musician. You do a couple of jobs that were not your expertise. But the tool is invaluable. We've used VST instruments, and now we have all these collections of samples that are very well, you said it, they are licensed, but AI is uncontrollable at this point, so you can't say we have to put legislation in place, we have to put rules in place, so we can at least keep what is ours, and it's the content that are being trained is ours.
But as you said, it's you chase the money. If PRS in the UK are not allowing those to be registered, so if all around the world people say, well, it's not worth anything, we're not registering it, then the creators are not going to earn any money. Eventually, they'll stop doing it.
Yeah, maybe the songs that are generated are worthless, but the data they were trained on is not.
They're two different arguments. No, absolutely, I completely agree with you. Yeah.
So it's a matter of, I think it will find its place in time. We just need time that we don't have, because this flood of AI-generated content is all over the place, and these conferences like this need to reach conclusions and act upon them.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for this development. When we see what AI is going to do for the future future works, and they say that maybe the work of musician is not going to be to disappear. And I wanted to ask you if you think that the work of the musician is going to disappear, because if we stop doing concerts, and concerts not in the capital, but also in the province. And here is the big problem all over Europe, that you have a lot of concerts on, and let's say about different genres, because I must insist on that, different genres, because when we speak about music industry, we have seen what's in music industry. All the musics that we teach at the university are not inside, I'm sorry. Because at the university we teach classical music, contemporary music, we teach jazz, traditional music, and ethnic music, and Byzantine psaltic art and religious music. You don't see that in the music industry. Where is it? So we speak always about producing music for the commercial music. So what can we do in order to develop and exploit our new musicians and produce more concerts, not in the capital, but in the province?
Well, I think
in the province, they listen just to AI. In the province,
but that has to be governments, and governments can do things like that. I mean, if you look at, historically, look at the rise of pop music in Sweden, when the government really helped those studios and producers get the equipment they needed. And look how the world, up until quite recently, ignored South Korea and K-pop. No record companies embraced it, and they then developed it themselves. And now that's as powerful. And I think that, you know, it's down to governments to really, really encourage. I mean, conventions like this really help, because people listen to, you've had thousands of people here and online. That's a big voice. Yes, so it has to be government intervention. Governments can tweak things. You know, they can just say to companies, unless you want to do business, these are the rules.
Yes.
But
or
they have
companies give some money to produce
But
more
at the moment, I
concerts
think-
because they have so much money,
Yeah.
Spotify and other,
But lobbying
and they
is the
must give
problem.
money
Yeah.
for music performances all over the world. Not only of this kind of music that is very commercial, but also on on the diversity of music and the
Yeah.
cultural diversity. We don't have that.
No, and I saw something recently that Ireland, I think there's some representative of Ireland, they can probably confirm it. Ireland's government has given a minimum per diem for, encouraging embryonic musicians. That's phenomenal. I think that's true. I read it on the news the other day. So it's those sorts of things that can really help, and those can undermine the lobbying that these tech giants do to government to switch things the other way.
Of course. Because I wanted also to say that I asked Ginos. Ginos, who is the well-paid musician in Greece? Someone who plays jazz or someone who plays the bouzouki? Of course, someone who plays the bouzouki. He earns so much money. And the one who plays jazz or classical music doesn't exist in the music industry here in Greece. So, about what rights are we speaking? The rights of which musicians? The musicians that spend all their life in the universities and conservatories to learn music, and after they are not paid at all. And you have now the hip-hoppers and the trappers that are promoted by all these commercial platforms, and they don't know music, and our children listen to rubbish because all that dooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-dooby all day.
Do you mind
after,
if I
it
drop
doesn't
in?
work here. It doesn't work. No melodies, no harmonies, no dynamics, no orchestration, and bad chords. I'm sorry. Of course, we must go through other genres of music and ask to all these giants of commerce to give some money for music performers in order not to lose all the other genres of music. Classical music, contemporary music creation, jazz, traditional music. All is the same. For me, when I listen to Spotify, many are the same.
No, I think all music should be supported. I think it's very difficult to be a critic and say you don't like this or you don't like that, because there is a market for every particular thing. And I think one of the things you have to be careful of in sort of
Thank you for this sentence.
being negative towards hip-hop is hip-hop very often, the way you've described it is one description, but some of the lyrics and some of those recordings resonate with a particular segment of the community that perhaps a rock record doesn't. In England, for example, heavy metal is not played on mainstream radio at all, and yet Wembley Stadium sells out over and over again. So I think we have to respect all music, help all genres. I agree with you about the quality of the education, but I think it's very hard to criticize stuff. I don't like every type of music, but everyone has a right to make music of some sort. And I think in one way, one of the greatest advantages of some of these AI tools, as I've seen it myself, is it's enabled people that are not necessarily gifted musicians, but do have a story to tell that can then tell their story in a slightly different way. And of course, we have to remember that the AI tools help disadvantaged and musicians with disability in a way that no other set of tools have ever helped. So if you are not able to physically play an instrument, you can design something that you can still have a voice. So I think, we have to protect incomes and things like that, but I think it's wrong to just criticize a music genre because you don't particularly like it.
Yeah, and I think, it's really good. I think we move back to the streaming things, and we have to move with the AI things. And that's why we have to speak about the AI, positive and negative things, and about the black box and quality and what to do with it. I don't know, you heard about the Anthropic case. Have you heard about the Anthropic case? No. Maybe somebody not. We had 2 cases in the world now about AI. One cancelled, what I told you, because of they didn't have any evidence, and it was cancelled. The other was the Anthropic case, and it's about 7 million pirated books. And they paid. So AI paid $1.5 billion for the authors. So it can be working but we have to find evidence. We have to find the key, how it works, what's in the black box. If we have evidences, we have more things and more money.
I would also like to add that something that a speaker said yesterday, whenever we talk about new technologies, we come up with old problems. And this is a pre-existing issue. Mainstream music, micro-scenes, traditional music, it's been this way since forever. Like a Greek traditional music will never be appealing to an international audience except if you sell it as a tourist attraction. And I think the same happens to other countries as well. Bulgaria, Hungary has excellent music traditions. All of them are, at this point, they are on Spotify. You can search them and listen to them. But the audience will not go there because they listen to the big hits and what the major companies want us to hear. It's simple as this. Now, AI is just another tool that is in there. I don't think that we can expect that AI will solve any kind of problem like this because it doesn't have to do with technology. It's a power problem. It's not a technology problem. So that said, if micro-scenes, traditional music, don't have great audiences, is something that we have to do in a political gain frame.
Yes.
We have to put rules in place, not just for AI, but as Steve pointed out, you have to tweak the system to get a result.
Yeah.
I think everything is about algorithms. So it was not surprising that on your paper have seen that 1% is jazz
Yes.
only. That's about algorithm, because jazz is not in the algorithm, and that's why, because it's about cultural and educational thing. We lost minimum 2 or 3 generations, and the parents of this new generation didn't listen to quality music. And if we put in some quality music, the output will be not a best quality music, but will be better if we put in some shit and comes out the same. You know, so it depends on us. We have to educate and teach and tell the children everything. You know, if I see a young woman who is holding his children in the hands, and if she has an eye contact with his girl, and she is singing or speaking to this girl, later they will speak each other. And the children will listen for his mom. If the mother is holding the children in his right hand and in the left hand can see a phone and switching TikTok and Facebook, the children can see only the phone and nothing about his mother. And that's why this generation has to find a way to get informed about quality things.
Yes, this is a very nice statement. Thank you very much. Because now we speak not about quantity, but about quality. And as I told you, I was head of the department for 6 years. We tried to represent all kinds, all areas of music expression in our department, from classical to contemporary music.
Except the mainstream.
Jazz, and traditional and religious. And we have also many courses in music engineering, in the sound engineering, music industry, etc. But our students are very critical on that. So maybe they are going to produce, but they will ask, if I will use these female voices, where do they come from? Because we have taught them in the lessons that someone is behind that when we speak about synthetic voices. So
Actually, that's a
here we come to
very
this.
good point. You mentioned the Spitfire library. One of the incredibly positive byproducts of sampling, which I notice actually with some of my younger students, is that they're incorporating ethnic instruments in contemporary tracks. Now, they don't care that it's a Greek instrument or an Iranian instrument. They go, oh, I really like that sound. But what the byproduct of that is to most other ears, you hear an unusual tone within a different arrangement. So I think one of the very positive aspects of that is it is opening to another generation a tone palette that perhaps wasn't available 5 or 10 years ago. And that's very, very positive, because then it ultimately creates a hybrid of both ethnic music and brand new music, which then becomes commercial. And then people then start to go, where's that from? And then they go onto Spotify and drill down and find that. I mean, it's the same in the UK. The BBC very much supports Welsh music, and I'm working with an artist at the moment who is fluent in Welsh. In fact, Welsh is her first language and English is her second. And when we get played on Welsh radio, the difference is absolutely remarkable. The way that the audience react to her and come on board is incredible. And now AI has no control over any of that. And that is really powerful.
All these classes that you teach about all these kinds of music, if they get fused into the mainstream, the result will be a better mainstream in terms of quality. Because scale is important. Scale has qualitative characteristics. Yeah. And I think if you mix all these beautiful traditions, because music is a mix. Mm-hmm. If you don't mix it, it's dull. Well, you have to mix it.
But it depends how do you mix them.
Yes, it's like cooking. I can make a dish and it will be salty that I can eat it.
With Gerard, we have done transcultural jazz.
I am very eager to hear, because someone mentioned improvisation and AI together. And this will be very interesting.
This is what Gerard will show after, and this is very interesting. And what I have showed in my paper, my presentation, is that AI, for the moment, cannot improvise and cannot have expressiveness. And this is the reason I ask you about the female voice, because the female voice that you will use, it's not going to be the expressive female voice. And when I have done my thesis on the synthesis of the singing voice many years ago, I couldn't imagine that today you have all these synthesized singing voices. Mm-hmm. And I was telling that we can use synthesized voice for finale, for example, in order to test the singing voices before you give the score to a singer, because I think that performance is very important.
That's the point. I have to go back what I told about AI assisted and AI generated. I use female voices, but not for finalizing and for commercial things. I had the pleasure to work together with the singer, a world-known singer, Deborah Bond from band Incognito, from the US, from the UK. I was sitting at home. I have a brilliant sounding voice, you know, but I had to send the demo to Deborah. Can you imagine that my voice could be well done to Deborah to sing my song? No. I made it, and I used a female voice for that to listen something.
It's not for a studio?
Yeah. It's for so AI assisted things are good for creative things, to show something to somebody, to make a demo. And Deborah said yes for me, and that's why we have a cooperated song on Spotify, and I'm really happy that I can work with a world-known singer. So it was a good thing. But if Deborah told me that, no, I don't like your song, I wouldn't put on the Spotify the AI-generated song, you know.
I think you said earlier about this thing with the human voice. So a couple of examples. Now, I've been using Melodyne since it was version 1. Mm-hmm. And whilst it is a phenomenal tool, the one thing it's still not good at, with greatest respect to the team at Melodyne, who are fabulous, it's the sliding around that you still have to leave what the human being has done, because it cannot do that. That is the human input. Very early when Melandine came out, I don't know if you ever heard it, someone got hold of a Frank Sinatra, not a multi-track, it was one where his voice was separate, and they put Melandine on Frank Sinatra's voice and tuned it, and it sounded absolutely appalling. It didn't sound like Frank Sinatra anymore. But I think that I think you said in your speech about younger generation getting used to it. I actually think it's a human resonance, and I actually don't think we get used to it, because I know, for example, look at the way that drummers developed. When they first started working in the early 80s with click tracks, the drummers today are phenomenal. Now, their feel has not been at all impacted by using a click track. They play naturally, but they play in time. And I think singers today, I worked with a hip-hop artist. Now, she has grown up with tuned vocals. When you listen to her soloed voice, it sounds like it's been tuned, because she copies that very fast effect that you get. But it still has emotion and delivery. So I actually think that what we sense as human beings, that weird thing of feel and emotion, I actually don't think that's ever going to change. I think that is actually in our body, and I think that will be, regardless of how much AI stuff is out there. I think we can smell a rat straight away, and I don't fear. I mean, my grandson absolutely can tell the difference. I really don't think we need to worry about that. We need to worry about getting paid, but I don't think it's going to brainwash people.
I think we must make a research with younger people, because they use more than us AI, and in the future we must make ethnographic research with AI, not AI, but for younger generations, because we have already lived other experiences and we listen in another way. So here we speak about models of listening, and this is very important. And I think that we have only 10 minutes in order to finish. So I would
Can I
like
add something here? Because you mentioned Melodyne. It's a very good example of how technology creates aesthetics. Remember auto-tune?
Absolutely.
So there's a whole genre of music that it's dependent on auto-tune.
Yes, yeah.
And the sound of it, since Believe by Cher, I think, everything shifted.
Yeah.
And also the drummers. We had to hear the sterile drumming of a lean drum, of a TR-808, to appreciate the flow of a human drummer.
But both of those created genres.
In both cases, we're richer people.
Yeah.
You see?
Fantastic. So as we are here for, of course, the rise of AI-generated music, but also for the rights of musicians, that's very important, I would like just to ask you a final question. In which way do you think we are going to protect the musicians' intellectual rights by the rise of AI-generated music?
I think this is what we are all here for. Control. We need control of the technology. That's the only way, and put rules in place.
Who will control
Can't
the technology?
control. You can't control anything now. It works. It's here. It's working. Can't control. We have to get our money from it. That's the point. And we have to find a way, a low way, to get our money out. Because everybody is using AI things. If he uses free, it's only for 10 songs. But if you pay for it, it's okay. You can get many things. But if you pay, you have to pay for us too. Because what it's in the black box, that's ours.
And government legislation, I think it's down to governments to make sure that the companies that wish to do business in their particular territories, they can, if they're brave enough, and as I said before, not overly lobbied by the other side, the government should understand how important music is to our soul, how important it is to culture, and how important it is you mentioned about next generations. How many times do we use music as a timestamp to a particular moment in our life that was so happy or so sad? Yes. Music is fundamental to us as human beings, and I think, unfortunately, certain governments don't appreciate it. Some do. And I think we need to look at the governments that do really good things, like if that is the case in Ireland, fabulous. We need to champion that. There are a few things the UK does that are good, but there's also a lot that it doesn't do that are good. And we need to make sure that these companies pay for it. You know, it's really, really crucial.
Yes.
I think it's about China, US, Europe.
Yes.
Yes.
If China don't do anything with AI, America will not, and Europe not. So that's all.
It's also a problem of decentralization, because here in Greece, we have this touristic model, this is our industry, and during summer you have a lot of concerts in the islands, and during winter you have empty cities, empty islands, and the people that live in the islands and the small towns, they listen to YouTube, Spotify, whatever, and they don't have any contact with concerts, nothing at all. So I think that we must convince the governments to have more cultural life in the province and the capitals, more musicians. The musicians must gain the role, they must, because they're offering something that the media and the AI cannot offer to the audience.
Yes, but you are speaking now about countries.
Yes.
And governments. We have to think about bigger, because if in Greece or in Hungary what can be solved, it can be solved in UK or in Croatia, you know. So we have to find a bigger thinking about AI and the world thinking about AI. That's the point.
And I hope that in the future we're not going to substitute the musicians. This is the most important. So I would like just to ask you if you have any question about this panel, what we said about it. Yes, please.
I want to draw an analogy with one of my favorite commodities, which is beer. And back in the 1970s and 80s, the pubs and the breweries realized that they could produce a beer, keg beer, that didn't need to be looked after so much in the pubs. And they could produce this in large quantities. There were things like Watney's Red Barrel, for instance. And the pubs were full of this beer. And after a while, people started to say, you know what, this just doesn't taste like real beer. It doesn't taste as good as the beer I used to have. And there was a campaign, the Real Ale campaign, and a group called Camera that emerged, and they influenced the public. And the public did, in the end, say, I don't want to drink that. I want to drink real beer. Now, if AI tracks will always, and this is really crucial to this whole argument, it has to be identified that it's AI. This is the point. People need to know that it's AI in advance, or when they're being fed it, they need to know it's AI. And I think that there will be a backlash. And I think that people will eventually say, for all the reasons that you set out so well in your keynote, because of the expression, because of the fact that we know that it's often the faults in music that make it most beautiful. It's the little glitches and the little characteristics, the personalization, whether it's the player or the singer, that makes it beautiful, makes it memorable. And I think that provided people are told that it's AI, that there will be a backlash against it, and people will insist upon hearing real music from real musicians and real singers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Very nice metaphor about the beer.
Thank you very much for your words. While you were speaking, I just, in the spirit of asking the right questions, I made a question to ChatGPT. And I wanted to know if you have experience with smart contracts. It seems that there's something going on about people accessing the digital with a smart contract without intermediates. So you established a smart contract with directly with the AI, and you set the parameters, even how you are going to have that income. And so it's very interesting because it's something that I didn't thought about until now.
Yes.
So is there any way, a possibility of making these smart contracts in the crypto world and making them a reality without intermediates? Have you ever heard that? Have you ever experienced with that?
No, because I searched in the bibliography for the other things that have to do with the listening of AI, but about what happens in the distribution of music, I couldn't find that in the papers, so this is the reason I searched in the AI.
Yeah, it seems it works with blockchains, and they can actually see how much of your music is being used, and the contract is specifically between you and the AI.
Ah, okay.
So that is something interesting to investigate about.
Okay.
Because it may be
Thank you very much.
a way to directly, you as an artist with the AI, that is something new to think of.
Very well. Both of you said very interesting things that we must convince the companies that when we have an AI song, they must write AI. Okay? And we must tell them that you're not going to deliver that in the pub or in the supermarket without, I know that is an AI. We must have a watermarking on that. Yes.
This is what I meant when I said control.
Yes, 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 Vasilis.
Paul,
Yes. Yeah.
Paul Tomori, again, this is related to what Horace said about AI music being synthetic. This is very fashionable now, creating music by generative AI. But fashions come and go. Do you think that there will be a time when using AI music will become embarrassing, like very unfashionable, like a synthetic polymer T-shirt, something that, you know, this looks good, but it's embarrassing, you know.
It's like the MIDI music.
Well,
in
well,
the
things
80s.
go in full circle.
Something like that, yes.
Things go in circles,
yeah.
I mean,
People
you mentioned MIDI.
get
You know, there was a period when
tired of synthetic because it's not vegan, it's whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah, you mentioned MIDI. I mean, there was a period of time when if you heard another DX7 Rhodes sound on a record, you'd vomit. And yet now it's gone completely full circle, and people are specifically using that sound on records to create that. So I totally agree. Things do have a cycle. They become trendy, naff, horrible, and then cool again.
Yeah.
as I can see now, the
But,
royalties
Yeah.
for musicians, I think the TV, the radio, the commercial incomes are too low now. We get our money about concerts and about other royalties, but a big one is a concert. I think one thing couldn't hurt the AI. These are the live performances.
Yes. Of course. So we must convince the governments to give more money to culture. And now we have exactly the opposite. Okay, yes, please. The last question.
Thank you for all the panelists. I would like to request any of the panelists who's expert in using any specific tool. Is it possible, there's a laptop here, can you give us a demo of AI-assisted content and AI-generated content? Little bit.
Stand
Let us know
by.
there is a
I'm going to do
conceptual
exactly
clarity.
that. I'm
There
going to be
will be
doing
a-
exactly that in a few minutes.
The next
In
panel.
a few minutes, you're going to do that, and you're going also to listen to AI improvised music from Gerard Sayag.
One,
Stand by.
one important thing that's AI-assisted and AI-generated thing. We had a weird thing. We generated a song with AI, and we made a song without any AI things. But we had a band, and this live band played these both songs. And we asked the audience, choose one. And unfortunately, if the live band plays the AI-generated song good, you can't tell how it works, you know. So the important thing, that's why, to educate and to help the next generation to find a way quality and not quality things.
So thank you very, very much for everything, and we hope that in the future AI will not stop the musicians that are perfect expression, and we're going to have more performances than AI-generated music. Thank you very much.